with great pleasure that we welcome you all to the inaugural session of the 10th International Scientific and Practical Conference on Biotechnology as an instrument for plant biodiversity. The perfect backdrop for our conference, where we will come together to exchange knowledge, foster collaborations, and explore new frontiers. This conference marks an important milestone in advancing our collective understanding and fostering new partnerships. Over the next 2 days, we will explore cutting-edge research, engage in thought-provoking discussions, and work together towards finding innovative solutions to the challenges we face. We hope this conference will not only provide you with valuable insights, but also offer opportunities for networking and collaboration that extend beyond this event. We are honored today to have with us the Honorable Director General ICR and Secretary there, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, as the chief guest of this function, Dr. D.K. Yadav, ADG Seed ICR, as the guest of honor, Dr. Thomas A. Lumpkin, Emeritus Director General, CIMMYT Mexico, and Chairman, the Borlaug Training Foundation, Fort Collins, Colorado, USA, Dr. J.C. Rana, Country Representative, Alliance Bioversity International and CIAT India Office, New Delhi, as the conference co-organizer, Dr. Arun K. Joshi, CIMMYT Asia Regional Representative, and MD BISA, New Delhi, India, also as the conference co-organizer, Dr. Shiv Agarwal, Regional Coordinator for South Asia and China, ICAR-NBPGR, and Dr. B.M. Prasanna, Maize Program Director, CIMMYT. Also, we are happy to have Dr. Patricia Pava as the ISHS representative. First and foremost, I would invite all the distinguished dignitaries to please join us on the stage. Sir, please. First and foremost, I would request our Director Sir, Dr. G.P. Singh, to formally welcome all the dignitaries. Sir, you are requested to please welcome the Chief Guest, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Director General ICR and Secretary there. Guest of honor, Dr. D.K. Yadav. Lumpkin, Emeritus Director General, CIMMYT Mexico. ISHS Representative, Dr. Patricia Pava. Sir, you are also requested to welcome our conference co-organizers, Dr. J.C. Rana, from Alliance Bioversity International, Dr. Arun K. Joshi, CIMMYT Asia Regional Representative, also our conference co-organizer. We also welcome Dr. Shiv Agarwal, Regional Coordinator for Southeast Asia from ICAR-NBPGR, and Dr. B.M. Prasanna, Maize Program Director, CIMMYT. Thank you, sir. With the permission of the chair, we would like to begin the session with a welcome address by Honorable Director, ICAR-NBPGR, Dr. G.P. Singh, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matter of great pleasure for all of us to welcome Honorable Secretary, Department of Agriculture, Research and Education, Government of India, and DG ICR, Dr. Himanshu Pathak Sahab. It gives me pleasure to welcome Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, former Director General CIMMYT, and now Emeritus Director General CIMMYT. I am I have a pleasure to welcome Dr. D.K. Yadav, ADG Seeds, ICAR, Ms. Patricia, the International Society of Horticultural Sciences representative and organizers of this workshop, Professor A.K. Joshi ji from CIMMYT and BISA, India, Dr. J.C. Rana ji from Biodiversity International, Dr. Shiva Agrawal, CADA, Dr. B.M. Prasanna from CIMMYT Maize Program Director at Nairobi, Kenya. Also Dr. Raj Gupta and several distinguished participants present in this hall. It's a matter of great pleasure to welcome Dr. Pathak Saab because today we have two grand occasions in this complex. Obliged to have you here. You gave your time despite your very busy schedule, and we had a round of email exchanges, and then he said yes, he will come. I am grateful to Ms. Patricia also. This Congress is 10th in a series which is being held in Delhi, which focuses on the interventions of biotechnology for PGR management. In all, we had roughly 30 participants globally from 18 countries, and total participation in this conference is roughly around 82. So you can very well assume that this is small and beautiful kind of a group which is involved in very serious discussions. We had already had 2 sessions of presentations in the morning, and we have around 5 technical sessions. On the 3rd day, sir, we'll be visiting the National Gene Bank at the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources in Pusa campus, and also we'll be visiting the Science Museum, Agricultural Science Museum present in this campus itself. So this is roughly, and we also have on the 3rd day a very short excursion trip of Delhi, visiting the National War Memorial and also maybe Qutub Minar if possible. That's what we have planned. Sir, since the morning it has been discussed at great length that the diversity is at stake, plant diversity. And therefore, by any means, if we can conserve the rich genetic heritage we have in India, then it will be a worthwhile attempt to do so. And National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources is mandated with the conservation, utilization and acquisition of germplasm, and it has been doing since last 50 years almost. This is probably the 49th year, and it will be completing 50 years since its separation from the Division of Genetics from IRI. And we have in all, as you mentioned, roughly around 470,000 accessions in the National Gene Bank, Seed Gene Bank. Apart from that, we have total of strength of around 480,000 involving cryo gene bank and the tissue culture gene bank. Apart from this, sir, we have 49 to be very correct, biodiversity centers which are spread throughout the countries. And we had several crops which are planted as field gene banks. Now, we have a very important lecture today by none other than Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, who will be speaking on the nexus between climate change and biodiversity, a review of where we are. And you can assume the importance of this lecture. We have been talking about the climate change We had been talking about the conservation of plant biodiversity and its erosion, but they had never been talked in totality. So you had been working on climate change, sir. You know the impacts of the climate change. And the greatest loss we will have is the loss of biodiversity. So this is what the conference is aiming. There are several questions which are to be answered through the discussions, whether our gene banks are ready for the climate change. And I recall when you came to NBPGR for its foundation day, you gave a very beautiful lecture on new technologies which can help the gene bank conservation of genotypes and their utilizations. So therefore, your presence in this hall is very important. I am thankful to Dr. D.K. Yadav, my friend and ADG in ICAR. Because of his efforts, 49 agro-biodiversity centers have been notified by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and we plan to give some money to each and every agro-biodiversity center dealing with not only cereal, pulses, oilseed, but many of the crops which are not being paid attention so far. And in one of the morning talk by one of the speakers has emphasized on utilization of some of the crops which have never been utilized for providing energy feed to human beings. So this is overall basic concept of this conference, and I am very glad, in fact, by your presence, by the presence of Dr. Lumpkin, by the presence of Ms. Patricia, and a galaxy of outstanding scientists. Many of them former colleague in IRI, Dr. Prasanna may recall, welcome back to Delhi again after a long gap. So with this word, sir, I end welcome address, and thank you very much for participating in this meeting. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for setting the tone of the conference. I now invite the guest of honor, Dr. D.K. Yadav, for his remarks, please.
Good afternoon to all. Honorable Secretary Dare and Director General ICAR, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, the chief guest of today's program, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, Dr. Patricia, my colleague Dr. G.P. Singh, and the galaxy of our senior colleagues and peers. I see Dr. Joshi, Dr. Rana, Dr. Shiv Kumar, and most importantly, Dr. Prasanna. After a long time, actually, I am seeing all the senior colleagues from India and outside, as well as all the head of the divisions and the faculty from the NBPGR and other participants of this particular program. I also welcome you all for this BIOTECH-2024 being organized by the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources. And as Dr. G.P. Singh has highlighted, we all are well aware that the plant genetic resources are the backbone for any of our crop improvement program. And the countries who are rich in biodiversity, so they are definitely, in real sense, they are rich, and their food security and nutritional security is more secure than the countries where the biodiversity is not that wide and not well conserved. The other way, other than the food and nutritional security, it also leads to the sustainability of the food systems because of the diverse type of material and the way the agriculture is sustained with the different types of materials. So that is also very important, not only that production under the ambient conditions and other, but when the adverse conditions comes, to definitely the genetic diversity which exists for the various biotic stress tolerance, so that plays a very great role. In the times to come, I think the role of PGR is going to enhance more and more because of the climate change which we see now, the time very frequent droughts, very heavy rains causing the situation of floods and submergence conditions, then high temperature, sometimes very low temperature, so very diverse temperature system, as well as the degrading soils, depleting water, as well as shrinking land and increasing population. So they all are the challenge today, where our food requirements are going to be more and more, and even the nutritional requirement is also enhanced in the times to come now, and when we see the situation of malnutrition across the globe. So that I think becomes more important. We are in fact very fortunate that India, our predecessors, our peers, they thought for a very long, have a very long vision, and the system was established long back, and with the establishment of the bureau, and not only in plants but in case of microbes, in case of insects, in case of animals, fisheries, and even soils also. So we have total 6 bureaus in our country, and if we see the overall situation of the total collections, so currently we have almost 470,000 total accessions of the different field and horticulture crops conserved in our National Gene Bank, which includes around 99,000 of the land races, traditional varieties, farmers varieties. So that is again a very important component, and when we today talk of the farmers varieties and the traditional varieties, so out of these 99,000, almost 4,400 accessions are from the traditional varieties itself, which are having a more importance today. And in the even Government of India is also launching a program to promote the traditional varieties because of their unique traits for the climate resilience as well as quality, and to bring them in the seed chain, formal seed chain system by purifying them and by putting them in the proper seed chain system. So that is one effort. The secondly, regarding the farmers varieties, I think all of you are well aware that we have a very unique system of protecting the farmers variety under the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Act, where out of the total almost 7,900 varieties which have been protected in the PPFRA, today 4,300 varieties are the farmers varieties which have been protected, and their rights have been given to the farmers. So that is again a happy situation in our country, and a very unique system globally which India is following. I think to sustain, to conserve, keeping the changing scenario, coming up with new technologies, so definitely use of biotechnology, the new emerging tools in the conservation as well as in the utilization, which partially we are already doing through the development of some markers and others in the varietal improvement program. But definitely we require some very precise and a high technique for conserving the germplasm in the times to come. So in that direction, I think that this 3 days that Biotech 2024 conference is really a very timely thought idea, and the way the galaxy of scientists they have gathered here, so definitely they will be talking and working on these aspects, that how best the biotechnological tools they can be explored and implemented in the conservation of genetic resources, not only in India but globally also, and the various techniques and that people are using, they will be discussed here, and I am sure that very good recommendations will be coming out of that, which will be definitely implementable in our country as well as the other countries who are dealing with the plant genetic resources. So with these words, I wish all the best for this workshop, and hope that very good recommendations will be coming out of the 3-day discussion, and I am thankful to Dr. G.P. Singh and his team for inviting and sharing my views with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. I now invite Dr. J.C. Rana, Country Representative, Alliance of Bioversity International and CIAT India Office, for his remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Dr. Janna ICR and Secretary JVS for the function, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, Emeritus DG at CIMMYT, Dr. D.K. Yadav, ADG Seeds ICAR, Dr. J.P. Singh, Director NBPGR, Dr. Patricia, my colleagues, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Agrawal, Dr. Prasanna from CIMMYT, welcome Dr. Prasanna, heads of division and colleagues, scientists from NBPGR and abroad. Thank you very much for participating in this particular conference. And we, as one of the organizer, thank you for Dr. G.P. Singh for involving us also in this particular program. And the theme which we look at biotechnology, I think when we started our career, we were not much aware of those tools. In 90s, it started, some tissue cultures and few things were there, but at that time it was not there. But certainly, I think the kind of resource crunch is there and the kind of advancement that has been made in the biotechnological tools, and especially we look at the crop diversity conservation and use particularly. I think when we started as a plant breeder, then if somebody asked us to use crop wild natives, every plant breeder used to afraid that linkage, drag and all those things that coming through from the crop wild native, particularly when using this GP2 and 3. So now the advancement that has been made through CRISPR and all those technology which have been coming to, I think they have opened the new stars for the use of crop diversity for human welfare and various challenges that have been talked about, malnutrition or climate change and all those stuff. Not only that, but otherwise, if you look at the field gene bank, now there is quite a lot of space on that. But we are day by day, we are resource crunch is there, and we are limiting the resources. So how we can go for pollen conservation or budwood conservation and all those stuff which we talked about. So all those techniques are really helping us in a not in a duplicate really, but targeting particularly organelles to conserve in this gene banks, so that space can be reduced. People are talking about gene banking now, not seed banking, but gene banking now, so that you can reduce the volume and reduce the cost as well. So that is how these techniques are helping us. And not only this, but I was discussing with Dr. Malik quite long time, and this is my experience also when I was in NBPGR, that we had conserved this orthodox seed in the cryo, and Rekha Chaudhary and Dr. Malik, they used to tell me, hey Rana, material is there, can you take it? They were orthodox seed, And I said in the morning by some speaker that cryo-preserved material, I have seen this by my experience. Seeds taken from the orthodox gene bank and the performance of the cryo seed, orthodox seeds, it's marvelous, so critical, significant differences are there. So how we can use those cryo techniques in the orthodox seed as well, not really that recalcitrant seed, but how they can help. So if they can help you, particular crop wild native conservation seeds are very less than that. So if we can do that, if we venture on those kind of techniques, I think we can reduce, we can move much faster and in a better way, and using resources are quite effective. But at the same time, there are certain challenges which have been posed by the various people, like when using this techniques, like clonally propagated crops, and there are a lot of clones are coming from the automated labs, and similarly the embryo transfer, the semen artificial. So traditional breeds are getting depleted in some cases, so that there is a question mark also that how we can use these techniques to safeguard these resources, not really to replace those traditional diversity. This is very helpful also. And similarly, we talk about transgenes or GMO, gene flow from the wild. So all those question marks are there, and we have to address those by using certain code of conduct and FUs and all the working on those lines, and how these can help. So, but overall, how we can use these technology for the welfare of the mankind and with specific to conservation of germplasm is very important. And thank you very much for all for being with us. Thank you, Dr. Ji, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your constant support for all our endeavors is well acknowledged and appreciated. Setting the ball rolling further, I invite Dr. A.K. Joshi, CIMMYT India Regional Representative, for his remarks, and also request him to please introduce the keynote speaker, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pathak. I call Thomas Lumpkin, of course, Patricia, Yadav ji, GP Singh ji. I know so many people here. ABCD, EFG, up to Z, Raj Gupta ji. I saw him, Dr. Gupta here. Yes, Rana ji, Shirji, yes, of course, Prasanna ji, and Young, my new friend today, Travis Lumpkin. Very good. All distinguished scientists, young and senior, ladies and gentlemen, they have given me 2 tasks. Time is very short, so I want to conserve time, number 1. So I will not take much time. Pathak ji, I know that there is a lecture here. So I am very glad that I am here. I am co-organizer, we are, as CIMMYT, BISA as well, so I am very glad about that. And I have attended many conferences, but this is a practical conference. So I am very glad to be in practical conference. I want to be practical. I want to only say, if you ask me, what are the benefits of plant biodiversity conservation, I will say it will increase your happiness index. And it will increase your resilience index. Resilience index is a new term, you all know. Many people say, don't bother about GDP. Please take care of resilience index, because this is time of climate change. And it is not possible without conservation. Plant conservation, animal conservation, of course, and therefore, if you read newspapers, many people say that you have to conserve, everybody has to conserve plants. And this biodiversity, where you don't have farms in your building, in jungle of cement and concrete, so you can do a lot of things. So I think I have said about this. Point 2, this young girl told me I have to introduce Dr. Thomas Lumpkin. Thomas Lumpkin was our Director General, CIMMYT Director General, very able Director General. We used to call him Lord Buddha. Yes. We used to learn from him how to how to control yourself. Always keep and calm and, very peacefully taking things forward. And you all know, or some of you know, that he is an esteemed agronomist in USA. He was born in USA. He was raised on a small farm in eastern Washington state, and therefore he developed interest in agriculture. But in USA, agronomy is different than India. I am a plant breeder, I am still an agronomist in USA. I am a soil scientist, I am an agronomist. So agronomy means everything there. So don't think from your mindset of Indian, agronomy. He is a scientist with a diverse range of disciplines. And he earned a Bachelor of Science in Agronomy from Washington State University in 1976, when many of you were not born. Don't mind, that's fine. Followed by Master's and PhD degree in Agronomy from University of Hawaii. Have you been to Hawaii? You should visit Hawaii, very beautiful place. His doctoral research included studies conducted in mainland China. Very interesting. USA and then connected to China. And his doctoral research included, as a young man, Lumpkin served in the Peace Corps in the Konkan region of India. So USA, China, India. He covered all those regions when he was very young. Okay, so in Konkan he taught rice production alongside wheat and horticultural crops. See, rice, wheat, horticultural crops, everything. Well, after completing his PhD, Lumpkin joined the faculty of Washington State University, focusing on East Asian alternative crops. See the diversity. Already there is diversity. He served as a professor and later as chair of the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences. Before his tenure at CIMMYT, Lumpkin served for 5 years as Director General for AVRDC, the World Vegetable Center in Taiwan, where he led initiatives to improve vegetable production and consumption in developing countries. In March 2008, this is important for me, I met him in the cafeteria before he joined as Director General. I did not know him, he did not know me. Only 2 persons were in that cafeteria in Mexico, Tom Lumpkin and Arun Joshi. He said, hello, how are you? I said, I'm fine. Do you know me? I said, I don't know you. He said, I'm going to be your DG. I said, thank you very much. I'm not in CIMMYT. I said, I'm not in CIMMYT. I'm in Banaras Hindu University. Very interesting. Anyway, we enjoyed that discussion. Then I found that he will be very, very successful Director General. So polite, so humble, energy coming out, like Lord Buddha, I told you just now. Okay, dear friends. So he was appointed Director General of CIMMYT, a position he held until 2015. He established BISA. I am MD of BISA right now. Tom, thank you very much for establishing BISA. And during his leadership, he focused on developing improved varieties of wheat and maize to enhance food security and promote sustainable agricultural practices globally. Throughout his career, Dr. Lumpkin has been recognized for his contributions to international agriculture research and development. He has published extensively on topics related to agronomy and sustainable agriculture. In 2017, he received the Alumni Achievement Award from Washington State University for his efforts to combat hunger and malnutrition worldwide. Dr. Lumpkin's dedication to improving global agriculture has had a lasting impact on food security and sustainable farming practices, particularly in developing regions. So he worked mainly for developing countries like ours. And for your knowledge, he has knowledge of Indian temples, Indian culture, Indian history, more than at least me. Be careful. Tom, thank you very much. Welcome.
Welcome Dr. Thomas Lumpkin for his lecture, please. The dignitaries are requested to please take their seats with the audience.
Up to that introduction, this is an audience participatory lecture. Can I get a show of hands of how many of you have children? So 2/3 perhaps? Could I get a show of hands of how many of you have grandchildren? So we have maybe a quarter. Okay, so if you have children, perhaps they will live to the end of this century. If you have grandchildren, definitely, very likely they will live to the end of this century. 2100. Think about that. A lot is going to happen in that time. At lunch, I was talking about the weather, asking questions about the weather that you recently had in Delhi. I was told you had a couple of days of 52 degrees. That's quite a very high temperature to deal with. Did any of you in this room go home to houses that didn't have air conditioning on those days? But there are many people in this country who did not have air conditioning to go home to. Yeah, it's almost unimaginable. Are you familiar with this phrase? Go back, please. Are you familiar with this phrase? It's Latin. It's a formal way of apologizing. Mea culpa. I'm sorry. I'm American. I come from a nation whose citizens are the worst contributors to greenhouse gases on this planet. Did more damage, unintentionally, but did more damage than any other group. So I want to apologize for that and for any mistakes I make in the presentation. This was, I working in the Konkan, had a big effect on me. With tribal people and Harijans. This farmer, his normal yield was 400 kilos per hectare of rice. 400. They would not allow him into the go-down to get fertilizer. I offered to take over his field. I got Erie Rice Institute seed, studied their pamphlets on how to grow rice. I went to the go-down and was able to get fertilizer. Got a very bad yield as far as what Erie would say of only 4 tons per hectare. You can get 10 if you really know what you're doing. But to go from 400 kilos to 4 tons, they couldn't believe it. And when my Peace Corps time was over, as a Gram Civic, they begged me to stay and they would pay my salary. if I would keep leading it. But it had a profound effect on me. Next. Okay. I imagine many of you have heard of mass extinctions. You probably watched the movie Jurassic Park and all those kinds of things. There were many mass extinctions. There were some that weren't quite so massive, but these were the big ones. The ones that wiped out the dinosaurs, the number 5 there, 65 million years ago. Next slide. And if we look at time over 485 million years, we can see where those mass extinctions happened. And you look all the way to the right, you see what could be a new mass extinction beginning to happen. It is occurring during one of the coldest periods on the planet. It is a period we evolved at the end of that Cenozoic as a species in a very cold period. We're not adapted to those, for example, the weather that the dinosaurs dealt with or other species. And a mass extinction typically means, as you can see there, about 75% of the species are wiped out. Next slide. Okay, so some people feel that we are well into an era of food insecurity, environmental insecurity. It threatens our civilization, the stability, and biodiversity, what this audience is interested in, biodiversity. A major culprit, we've become too successful as a species and have damaged too much of the surface of the earth. There would be much less, it's just us occupying the space that has wiped out a lot of species. It isn't climate change. We've been too successful. But climate change may be the finishing, the coup de grace that really finishes things off. So we're beginning to see some very, very strong weather events. In the United States, we just saw North Carolina get washed away. We've seen Florida get savaged by hurricanes. The major causes are fuel, burning fossil fuels, fertilizer use, particularly nitrogen fertilizers, and food preferences. We'll get into that. And with this breakdown, the stress that it brings on, go back please. We see, are we seeing unrest? Are we seeing migrations? Which we have a new president in the United States that's going to use the army to drive impoverished people out of the country who are propping up the whole economy, who run all the slaughterhouses for animals, who do much of the field work, harvest the vegetables by hand, drive them out, and food prices are going to skyrocket. And he's not the only leader of a country in the world that's behaving this way. A lot of leaders are, I'm the tough guy and I'm going to fix it. Doesn't matter if it really works or not. And wars. We're seeing small wars, we're seeing threats of big wars. I could give you a whole lecture on the impact of nuclear war, what it does to the planet. First drives you into winter and then drives you into extinction summer. And there's been talk of this new phenomena of climate grief. Laying in bed at night thinking about the weather, thinking about the future of your children, feeling grief about what may be coming. Climate change right here in the Punjab, in the Midwest this year, definitely going to have big effects on wheat and maize production. If we look at 2099, that's why I was asking, who's going to be alive at the end of this century? Your grandchildren. This is what the future of maize looks like unless we can do some radical science. That the beginning of that radical science has to start here, in this room, by scientists like you, the curators, the people who maintain and characterize the gene banks. But that red color means a 40% drop in yield. And look at India. Look at the Corn Belt of the United States. Look at Mexico and Central America, where maize came from. We have to find, you are gene banks. It's strange they call you gene banks. They should call you species banks. You don't normally bank genes, you're banking species. But in the future, it needs to be species. You need to be the big department store where the breeders come and shop for genes. I mean, they're doing it now, but they have to take this whole species with them and clean it all up and try to narrow it down to those genes that they really want. But in the future, we need gene banks where they can just come and say, I need that gene. I don't care what species it came from. I need the gene that does this or that. Strangely, wheat may not do so bad, but it won't be the same wheat we have today. Wheat grown under high carbon dioxide. Who can tell me what's going to happen with that? What does that mean? What?
Yield will increase.
Yield will increase, but something will go down. What is it that goes down under high carbon dioxide? Quality. The protein goes down. It just becomes starch. Not the protein that really sustains life. It'll be a sugar cube, a starch cube. But again, look at India. It doesn't look too great in the Punjab under this future weather at the end of this century. You got to get working on this right now. There's no time to wait, to waste. These are the 7 sessions of this conference. But what about GMOs? What about genes? Shouldn't we be banking GMOs? I know there's an allergy to them here, and understandably so. But we need to move beyond that. You need to be a gene bank of GMOs also, and it needs to be encouraged. You need to build the containment facilities, the proper testing facilities. But to survive the weather that is coming to this country, to this world, we're going to need radically different plants that are supercharged with genes that have been shopped all through your gene bank, and not just from the species that you're trying to grow. You need to get started on it now. So please, push your leaders to fund you to engage genetically modified and edited genes and genomes. We've got some very interesting material out there now that is India needs to be looking at. There's the Bioceres company with their branch in Argentina, and they claim that under severe water stress, using a sunflower gene, they can get 40% more yield. Wouldn't that be very, very nice to have when climate change throws you a very bad wheat season? It's been approved in the United States, it's been approved in Brazil, in Colombia, in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. In Nigeria, I believe it's approved for import for consumption, not for production. You need to take a look at this. Start evaluating it. And there's a lot of opportunities. The plant world has some really interesting ways of doing photosynthesis, of doing phosphate uptake, of doing biological nitrogen fixation. Recently, a company has taken, most of our plants have chlorophyll A and B. They've put chlorophyll C in successfully into a dicot. So we're harvesting a broader range of the light spectrum, potentially getting more productivity. And there's also other chlorophylls, D, E, and F, that work under different conditions, different spectra of light. We can grab more of that sunlight for our crop. All of you plant scientists know about C3 and C4 plants and the anatomy that goes along with that. Could we move some of that C4 anatomy into wheat and supercharge wheat? The anatomy that we find in the maize plant. And also, I'm sure there's many other types of anatomy, vascular systems that could be looked at to move into our crops, to supercharge them. There's the can plants that do well under very, very severe heat and dry conditions. Could some of that be incorporated? And what's going to be becoming more and more and more critical is phosphorus. We are running out of phosphate deposits around the world. The mines are going to be depleted. We're going to have to find ways to mine phosphorus in the soils that we have. And mycorrhiza, in association with our plants, can bring that phosphorus to the plants. We can improve that system, take it to more species of our crops, and make it work better. Biological nitrogen fixation, especially associative, should be the easy thing. To find rhizobium that will help us boost without too much modification, nitrogen fixation, uptake, and we can save greenhouse gases. We don't have to be using natural gas to make the nitrogen fertilizer. And nitrate. It's, some of these compounds are 80 times stronger than carbon dioxide in creating heat in the atmosphere. Next. Okay, so already Pivot Bios has come out with a new associative nitrogen fixing bacteria that will give, even with nitrogen fertilizer, it'll give the plant 20% of its nitrogen. Would your farmers like to save 20% of their nitrogen fertilizer costs and make a real contribution to reducing greenhouse gases? And they have a goal of getting to 50% of the nitrogen coming from this associative where the bacteria are living on the roots and not actually forming nodules, but just associative right on the roots. And then if we get really smart, maybe we can start moving the nodule morphology from legumes to other crops. It's being done. We need to, this is something that really needs to be looked at with the species in your gene bank. Are there differences that can help support associative nitrogen fixation? Greenhouse gas emissions. So look at today's date on that bottom axis. The big question is, we've got on this graph, we've got 5 pathways. Which pathway are we going to take? Are we going to take the cool pathway to the bottom? Are we going to take the middle pathway? It's going to be pretty warm. Or are we going to take the blazing hot pathway that destroys biodiversity on the top? That is in our hands, in our behaviors, our collective behaviors. Which of those pathways the world is going to be on? Is it going to take us back to the world that we were born into? Or is it taking us to a future that our children cannot bear? Let's see who the big contributors are. I said mea culpa. I said sorry. Over on the right, you see the X's. Take the US as X, as the base. You've got about 350 million, and that's our greenhouse gas emissions. India has 4 times the population of the United States and produces a little more than half as much total greenhouse gases as the United States. The United States is just out of control, damn the world, full speed ahead, pedal to the metal, push the gas. China, quite different, also 4 times the population of the United States, but way more than double greenhouse gas production totally, but per capita is still much less. And if you look at the US over time, it is far, far worse, because we started burning coal and producing greenhouse gases in mass long before much of the rest of the world. Europe, look at Europe, has a living standard quite similar to the US. Twice the population, half the greenhouse gases, so a quarter. The average European is producing a quarter of the greenhouse emissions. Can't we, to live in the style of a European, be so bad? Can't the US change? Well, we've elected a new dear leader who's going to pull us out of the Paris Accords and drill and release all the methane into the atmosphere and buy as big of trucks and cars as you can imagine and damn the rest of the world. The rest of the world, 12 times the population of the US, uses maybe 3 times the fossil fuels as the US, only is using less than 1/3 per capita that the US is. So go get out in front of the American embassy with your protest signs. Dump Trump. Don't let Trump turn your world into a burning hell, where Living in the 50 degrees centigrades is an annual event. Next slide. Agriculture greenhouse gas emissions. Methane from cattle. It's a major source of greenhouse gas. And that methane, is so much more powerful in heating up the environment per molecule than carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide from fertilizers, another horrible greenhouse gas. Carbon dioxide, one of the worst sources, is from our cutting down of forests. It's happening in this country also, converting forests to rangeland for cattle. Of course, rice paddies we know produce methane. What can we do to re-engineer rice production to not get that methane? Is there some compound we could put in the soil? Is there something we could do to the plant? Right, what we're living with today, what you woke up to this morning when you looked out the window. When I looked into the lobby of the hotel, looking across the lobby, I could barely see the other side. The farmers burning straw. This has got to stop. We've got to find other uses, other ways to deal with that. It's harming your health, it's harming the environment, and it's wasting a useful natural resource. Next slide. Look at per kilogram of food, how many kilograms of greenhouse gas get produced. If we produce a kilo of beef on the left there, it takes nearly 71 kilos of greenhouse gases are produced. Let's get over here to eggs. Maybe some of you are eating vegetarian eggs, some of you shakahari. That's only taking about 5 kilos compared to 70. That's horrible. There needs to be a severe tax on that kind of food that's producing, you have to produce so much greenhouse gas. The vegetarian diet, which takes up the right-hand side of that slide, has such a much less impact on the environment. You have the species, the genes in this unit to improve vegetable production more and even make it more attractive. Next slide. This is one of the worst things that's happening in that beef production. They're burning the Amazon. They're cutting it down and burning it and making grazing land. It happened in the US already decades ago, but the big companies like Cargill, growing soybeans, cutting down those rainforests that take up so much of the carbon that help us. They're being killed, they're being wiped out. Cargill has committed to stopping this destruction, but they're lying. They still do it through second-hand people. And with the weather that's changing, weather patterns, where rain normally comes, it's moving elsewhere. For example, rain that used to fall in Canada, in the right places, in a forest, is not falling there now. Look at Canada's greenhouse gas emissions on the right-hand side. That's what they normally produced. This last year, there were horrible forest fires in Canada. Look at that pink bar. The greenhouse gases that came out as a result of the forest fires in Canada. The US East Coast now, huge area of forest, is bone dry. It is ready to just burst into flames. Keep your eyes on that. God help us that it doesn't burst into flames. Other places around the world, this is happening. The Arctic, this is one of the most frightening of scenarios. The Arctic has so much frozen, undecomposed organic matter. It's frozen. But now it's warming up, it's thawing out, and it can catch on fire. And if it burns, you'll get 70% of the carbon dioxide that has been produced since 1975. Dramatic increase in global greenhouse gases if the tundra of Canada catches on fire. Not even to talk about the tundra of Russia that could also. I mean, your great-great-great-grandchildren are going to see, if we don't change this, are going to see the Antarctic completely melt. Are going to see Greenland completely melt. How deep will the water get in the oceans? 70 meters deeper. Bangladesh completely gone. Calcutta completely underwater. Patna underwater. Orissa, much of it underwater. This is the future if we don't stop this. But even long before that, even in this century, a couple of meters will happen. And there's all kinds of calculations. The IPCC says by 2100, if we're good boys and girls, it'll only be a half a meter. But new science is saying a half a meter by 2050. Many of you are still going to be alive by 2050. 2 meters by 2100. 5 meters by 2150. If you're going to buy a beach house, don't make it too close to the water. How this, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC for short. This is the circulation, this is part of the whole global circulation system. It takes water from the Gulf Stream, takes it up to Europe. Takes it up to Europe, takes it up to Scandinavia. Brings hot, salty water with a lot of heat in it. That's why it's so pleasant. You have Great Britain, that's as far north as Alaska, a balmy weather. Nice weather in Scandinavia. But with Greenland melting, the Arctic melting, this fresh water, cold fresh water is going to block that warm water from getting to Europe. Perversely, while the rest of the world is beginning to burn, Northern Europe will start to freeze. Time to buy, if you want to stay cool, time to buy in England now. London will cool minus 10, it'll cool by 10 degrees. Bergen by 15 degrees from today. And there's no way to cope with it. However, with that cooling, that heat's got to go somewhere, and it's going to hit the Amazon rainforest, dry it out and burn it up and create much more carbon dioxide. A lot of our areas of crop production are going to fail. Widespread food and water crisis. Also the atmospheric rivers. Right now, Washington State, where I live, we have the Pineapple Express coming in. It's wintertime. It brings us our annual water to Oregon, Northern California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia. That is being pushed north. California now is not getting their share of it. That's why we've been seeing all those fires in California. It's going to get worse. They're getting pushed north. The jet stream is moving north, and it's taking those rain systems with it as it moves north, and alternately in the southern hemisphere, the same thing is happening. Next. So again, future sea level rise. These are some of the modest estimates. Oops, lost. That NOAA predicted in 2017, I think. Next slide. I lost the screen here. So this is a repeat of the slide you saw earlier today of these critical areas of very rich biodiversity. And gene banks really need to focus on these. And you've already, a speaker has previously mentioned that. I just had a similar slide. But I encourage you, especially as they said, the Konkan area, the Himalaya area, collect things that just seem like weeds, right? Everything needs to be collected. Looking at drivers of loss of biodiversity. We have indirect drivers, population, economics, technology. We have direct drivers, land use, exploitation, climate change. These are impacting our biodiversity. And these are the impacts that we're already seeing by 2019. 47% decline in ecosystems.
You have your screen.
Okay. 25% of species are already threatened with extinction. The second item. 23% of ecological communities have declined. 82% of mammals, wild mammals, the biomass of wild animals, the size of the herds of elephants in India, of wildlife in Africa, in the US, has dropped 82%. The animals are still there, but there's just a few of them left. And indigenous, and areas for indigenous people who've lived a traditional life, they've lost 72% of their area for them to live. They're forced now. I haven't seen one for years. I worked my farm. I haven't seen a toad or a frog. Once in a great while I'll hear a bullfrog in a pond. But we've really, how did we kill them off? What happened? I have no idea how this happened, but they're virtually gone. And that, they're indicating that here. But I think it's far worse than this. You've probably read the stories about the coral reefs. Already 50% of the coral is dead in the ocean of the reefs. This illustration says at 1.5 degrees, which is where we're at right now, 70–90% of the coral will vanish. We get to 2 degrees, half a degree more, we go to 99% of the coral will die. Mammals. At 1.5 degrees, where we're at, 4% of the mammals lose half of their habitat. We get to 2 degrees centigrade, 8% of mammals will lose half their habitat. We get to 3 degrees, 41% of mammals lose half their habitat. We're not, we're going to be at 3 degrees in less than 10 years. So, just in finishing up, it really seems like mass extinctions don't happen overnight, except if you have a comet or you have a massive volcanic explosion, which has happened in some of the mass extinctions. But it can drag out for 1,000 years. But ours is coming much faster than that. The 5th extinction of causing the dinosaurs to go extinct had 800 ppm carbon dioxide. We're at 423 and increasing rapidly. We could do it. So the mass extinction is coming. Do we dare use that phrase? Is it too radical? Or is it realistic? Is it something you need to take to the ministers? That this extinction is on its way? The evidence is piling up? That the pace that we're doing things, and especially here in the gene bank, is not adequate for what's coming. So I'm throwing that out to you. I'm not a great mind. I'm not an Einstein. I'm just pointing out to you something that troubles me seriously. I have children. I have grandchildren. What am I leaving them? What are they going to inherit? I ask you to think about it yourself. Don't go into climate grief. Go into climate action. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope or off the wall, or just he's a little mad, getting too old and a little senile. Investigate this, read up on it, Google it, Wikipedia it for yourself. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Get him off the stage. Okay.
Have shared with us today. Moving forward from this talk, the International Society for Horticultural Science, in short ISHS, under the umbrella of which this conference is being organized, is a truly global network comprising members from more than 50 countries and regions. ISHS is a major source of up-to-date information on global horticultural research and aims to promote research in all branches of horticulture. It encourages the development of international cooperation, bringing together scientific and technical professionals to stimulate, facilitate, and coordinate research and scientific activities on a global scale. Therefore, I now invite Dr. Patricia Paiva, ISHS representative, to please share with us the ISHS presentation.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. I would like to congratulations for the organization of this meeting. This very nice meeting. Also, I'd like to welcome to all delegates that are attending this meeting. As announced, my name is Patricia Paiva. I'm from Brazil. I'm from Federal University of Lavras, and also I'm the Vice President of ISHS. ISHS is an independent non-profit organization of horticulturists acting as a globally recognized and sought after platform for research, science-based information, exchange and collaboration in supporting sustainable innovation in horticulture. This society has some different member categories, and as individual members, we have nowadays around 6,000 members from more than 150 countries from all regions of the world. Also have some country or regional members and institutional members. The society is organized in 14 divisions and 3 commissions in different areas of the knowledge in horticulture, including plant genetic resources, fruits, vegetables, ornamental plants, landscape, and precision agriculture, engineering, and different subjects. Nowadays, the current main activities is related to symposium and congresses organization and publication. Regarding the symposium and the congress, we organize some regional horticultural congresses, as for example the Africa Congress, European Congress, Africa, and more than 35 annual symposia around the world. Also, we prepare an International Horticultural Congress for each 4 years, the next one being 2026 in Kyoto, Japan, which I invite everyone to be present to attend this Congress. Regarding the publications, for each symposium, we publish an Acta Horticulture, which is the proceedings of the symposium, all the oral and poster presentations. They are invited to submit an article for the Acta Horticulture, and this Acta is free for all members of the society. The society also honors a scientific journal, the European Journal of Horticultural Science, that is published by CABI in collaboration with the society. It's an online scientific journal with open access. I also invite you to submit your scientific papers for this journal. The society also has a magazine, it's Chronica Horticulture, with some information, some publication article regarding the horticulture around the world. This is a quarterly ISHS magazine. It is open to everyone, members or not members. You may access that in the website. The society, we have an international board. The president is François Laurent from France. Also, we have a representative from Europe, that is Lucas. And I am the vice president. I represent South America in the society. Also have a vice president, Teddy, who represents America in the society. We have an executive director, Peter van der Brot from Leuven, from Belgium, and a representative from Africa, Mokhtar, a representative from Asia, that's Alex from Taiwan, a representative from Oceania, Peter, that's responsible by communication, and Tao, that's ex-officio member. Tao is the president of the next International Congress in Japan. Also, we have a secretariat that supports all the activities in the society. We have some strategic goals for the society in this term of the board. The first one is related to science and the knowledge exchange, that's in charge of Professor Ted from North America. And we are focused on scientific quality and also in exchange discussions. We organize some Hort Forum that's open for everyone to attend this Hort Forum. The next one will be on December 4, and the theme will be on size. If you go to the website, you can check and perform the subscription for this. We also work on publication. We are working a business model for a sustainable and efficient publication that we perform in the society. This have been done in a collaboration with CABI. And we prepare a new international journal which the editor-in-chief is here, is attending this meeting, is Professor Renato Paiva, also from Brazil. Also, we are working on the visibility of the society. We are preparing a new brand platform with new logo, new website, and also we're investing in a strong presence in the social media platforms. We are worried about the member recognition, and we have this nice program in the ISHS, which I'm in charge of it. It's regarding the young minds. We are looking forward to involve and to award and prepare many activities for the young people. We call young minds students and also early career. And for now, we established a Young Minds Committee. It's a group of 11 young minds representing all of the regions of the world. Also, we're preparing a mentorship program that I think will be ready in the beginning of the next year. And also have a goal to work on a job platform, challenges, and other activities for young. Regarding the Young Minds Committee, we would like to involve young people from different regions of the world. And in this frame, you can see the representatives from different parts of the world, two per region. So we have some representatives from North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. Also, we have some partnership with other activities. For example, this challenge that's organized by Wageningen University in the Netherlands. And we support this initiative because they are related to young people. This is currently open for subscription for young people that would like to be part of this. We work also in network, so we're preparing new membership. We are looking for a new partnership, membership, national and international organizations to be part of the society. And also prepare a new membership category. We will inform you soon about that. And one of the goals of this is to have a low price for the students, to have many students in our society as members. As I told you, we're organizing the International Congress each 4 years, and the next one will be in Japan. Don't miss out any of the information. Follow us in the social media as Facebook, X, and the website. You can find every information that you want about the society. And I invite you to make part of this society, to be a member of this society, because we prepare many internships for you, for our members. Thank you very much for your attention and welcome to this conference.
And we are thankful for this partnership. I now request all the dignitaries to please grace the stage. The conference souvenir and the abstract book. I invite the conference conveners, Dr. Sandhya Gupta and Dr. Malik, on the stage, please. Thank you, sir. It is now time for the address by the chief guest, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Honorable Secretary Rare and Director General ICAR. Sir, you are requested to please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much. आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Something which was written there. course, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, Dr. G.P. Singh, Dr. Yadav, all my colleagues from CG centers, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Rana, Dr. Agrawal, one is of course Dr. Maruti Prasanna, not after a long time. All my colleagues from ICAR-NBPGR in particular, from various CG centers, from different countries, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be here in this afternoon. But then, 2 or 3 lessons I could learn today. You know, I'm working on this climate change and greenhouse gas emission since 1991. So I am listening all these terrifying lectures for last 30 years. And I have also given a few. But then Dr. GP told me that you are going to have a very useful and very enjoyable lecture today. But what we got was a very terrifying lecture. But that's very real, very, very real. Each and every word which was presented was so real that all of us really need to think about it. Not only think, act upon it. Really, really act upon it. But then there are several problems, you know. Tom asked her, how many of you are married, how many of you have got children, grandchildren, so on. Tom, I have got one son. He is now going to be 30. So me and my wife asked him that, why don't you get married now? He said no. I said, why? He said, no, I have attended one lecture of Tom. So I should not. No, but that's again a lighter side. Again, of course, it is, see, when we used to work, you know, there are 2 ironies of climate change, greenhouse gas, global warming or global boiling, whatever you use. One irony comes from the scientists themselves. They will never say that what is going to happen tomorrow or next year or next to next year or 5 years down the line. They will say what will happen in 2099. They will not even 2100, no, it is 2099 kind of thing. So we used to work with Dr. Agrawal, Dr. Pramod Agrawal, who is now in Pisha, and we used to write 2070 and something. So I asked him, sir, why do you write, what do you predict 2070 when none of us will be there? He said, no, it is, you are in a safe side actually. So that there will be nobody who will be able to catch us that what Dr. Agrawal and Pathak said something like this and it is not happening. So by that time all of us have gone, and then this is the lighter one. But you know, another irony is of climate change, global warming, that those who are responsible for global warming, probably they are not going to suffer. Those who are not at all responsible, they will be suffering more. All the poor people. Maldives you talked about, Bangladesh you talked about, they are very poor people. They do not emit large amount of greenhouse gases. They do not have so many cars or ACs or refrigerators and so on. Very minimum amount of greenhouse emission per capita they emit. But when the countries one after another will go underwater, Maldives is going to be number 1. Part of Bangladesh is going to be number 1 then. And there are many other countries, poor countries, not at all contributing. And those who are contributing, because they have got technologies, resources, and many other things, and of course knowledge, they will be able to find some way out, called adaptation. They will be able to adapt. Adapting new technologies, new tools. Even in Delhi, around 50 degree, 52 was a wrong estimation actually. It is not 52, 47 something. But even in that also there are many people who are living very happily. Forget about others. Take the example of this room itself. And in this room, I don't know how many air conditioners are working and how many, fans and everything. If you do not use all of this, then the temperature of this room will be around 47, where none of us can sit. Now we have got technologies, we have got resources, we have put all kinds of, and we have brought down the temperature from 47 to 24, 25, 20 degrees centigrade. Very happily enjoying discussing about climate change, global warming, global boiling and all those kinds of things. think of the person who doesn't have all these facilities. Now, without all this energy consumption, earlier the outside temperature was around 35 degrees or say 40 degrees. But now we have put everything using lots of energy. So the outside temperature, which was earlier say 40 degrees centigrade, now it has become 47 because of us, because we want to live in 25 degrees centigrade. And that fellow now has to live in 47 degrees centigrade. Now this participant said that the whole discussion is going in a totally wrong direction. And it is 29th COP. COP is Conference of Parties. So for last 29 years, we are discussing something to mitigate greenhouse gas emission, and still we are discussing. So there used to be a cartoon in the Arctic region, so the two polar bears sitting on two melting glaciers, discussing now the next meeting is happening, and in this meeting the world is going to take a very big decision to stop emitting greenhouse gases. So don't worry, just it's a matter of few days and the meeting is over. We shall discuss next meeting. So by doing this, we are 29th meetings are over. And now we are realizing that the whole discussion is going on in a totally wrong direction. Let us think afresh. So this is a problem. But then the things are not going to happen. These are happening. In this country, every season, every year, we are observing all these things what Tom presented before us. Droughts or floods, these are not only becoming more frequent, these are also becoming fiercer with more intensity. And we really have to act upon this. But before I also add on giving you all this frightening kind of information, let me share one or two positive things also of climate change. For every bad thing, there are 10 bad things, there could be one or two good things also. One is, because of climate change, some of the colder regions, including winter season of this place, northern India, and of course temperate regions, the temperature is going to be a little bit more, say plus 2 degrees centigrade. Because of that, some of those areas could be having higher yield, or maybe they will be able to grow some crops where earlier they could not. So those are going to be a little bit more congenial to produce few more crops. Some of the cold problems, like chickpea in this region, because of all kinds of problems, fog and everything. Of course, fog is still there; it will be there. So those crops are also going to be benefited. There will be more precipitation because of increase in temperature, and that's very logical. When the temperature goes up, there will be more of evaporation from all these water bodies, oceans and everything, which will go to the atmosphere, and then somehow it is going to come down. So precipitation, maybe snowfall or rainfall, both these are going to increase. So our desert regions might be getting some advantages. But the problem is you do not know when and how much rain you are going to get. So Rajasthan, probably they would have been very happy to get one or two more showers. They are getting also. But then they are getting in so heavy way that they do not know how to handle it. For agriculture, rainfall or precipitation is very important. Where there is water, it is, good for everybody. But then the distribution of rainfall is more important than the total amount of rainfall. And the distribution of rainfall is going to be totally disturbed. Until now, people are talking about 2 degree plus. Now there is almost no doubt that we are going to cross that. So that 1.5 has gone, 2 is also going to go much earlier than what people used to predict. And once that happens, the challenging thing is the way climatic phenomena behaves. Those are going to be so irregular that none of your technologies, including climate resilient varieties or conservation agriculture or whatever term you know, probably those are also not going to be sufficient to address all the impacts of climate change. So everyone need to act. There are two other good points. One is of course gene banks, whether you call it gene bank or species bank, whatever it is, but then CG centers, they are really having this treasure, and I think all of those except few have got this treasure with them. This can really help to big way to develop new varieties which will be more tolerant to drought, flood, heat and so on. And already we have started exploiting those germplasm. Already varieties are there. Dr. Yadav from headquarters, he deals with all of these things. So in ICAR, now around 80+% varieties, whatever we develop and release, are having at least one trait of climate resilience. And we have made it a policy that let us now develop varieties only for climate resilience. And second one is of course biofortification. So we have tried in a big way to act not only for varietal development, but many other, because this is, we know, is going to be very, very critical, particularly for a country like ours. Climate change is not going to be, it is already a big threat. Every season, every year, we are facing it. We have developed contingency plan, we have developed several other kinds of things, but even then, the things are not going the way we want it to. Though in the broader scale, what we have observed, that Indian agriculture probably has achieved some bit of resilience. What I mean is that in 15-20 years back, little bit aberration of monsoon would reduce our total food grain production drastically, even up to 24, 25, even up to 2010 also. But for last around 8 to 10 years, though the climate change is happening, aberrations are happening, but even then total food grain production of this country has not gone down. Much of the credit should go to new technologies, including climate resilient varieties, and of course other technologies, but also farmers' awareness and some kind of policy support for irrigation, micro irrigation, and so on. So things are happening. But the problem is climate change is happening in a much faster way compared to the way we are developing the technologies. So our adaptation process has become slower than the change in climate. So you have to beat the change. And if we can beat the change by becoming more efficient in a faster way, then only we will be able to address the problems what Tom presented before us. And of course, biodiversity is certainly one of the areas of concern. It has been concerned from beginning only. People have understood it. And of course, it is happening even before climate change also. But then this is one of the areas where the impact is going to be very, very severe. And at that point of time, all these gene banks and the collaboration between ICAR and 1CG, including all the CG centers, will be very, very crucial. And I can see all my colleagues from 1CG. Let me say 1CG. I do not want to divide you. And as I say all the time, that collaboration and cooperation between ICAR and CG centers have been one of the most successful collaborations of the world. You will hardly find any other collaborations globally which has given so much of dividend. Whether it is with ICAR and CIMMYT, ICAR and IRI, ICAR and, I mean, you can take any name and you will find so successful collaboration over the decades, not 1 decade or 2 decades, since 1960 when IRI was established in 1960. Since then, all good collaborations are happening, and I'm sure to address the issues of climate change, this is another time when we really need to strengthen that collaboration further. And I also thank the organizers, particularly International Society of Horticultural Science, and I was really very happy to see all those very interesting things which you are organizing, and of course all other, including our NBPGR and all the colleagues. So thank you very much, all of you, and particularly Tom, for giving a really useful, very, very informative presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now request Dr. G.P. Singh sir to please present a token of appreciation to Dr. Himanshu Pathak sir, Honorable Director General ICAR. Sir, you are requested to felicitate the other dignitaries as well. First, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin. Dr. D.K. Yadav. And Dr. Patricia Pera. Thank you, sir. Organizing a conference is no small feat, and the dedication, passion, and meticulous planning the organizers have shown deserves a round of applause. ISHS would like to felicitate the conference conveners for successfully organizing this conference BIOTECH-2024. For this, I request Dr. Patricia Peva to present a medal and certificate to both the conference conveners, Dr. Sandhya Gupta I invite Dr. Sandhya Gupta to please present the vote of thanks.
Schedule and gracing the occasion and presenting chief guest address. Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. D.K. Yadava, ADG Seeds, for accepting our invitation and for your words of encouragement. I am also thankful to ICAR and their staff for their help in getting approval and clearance. Thank you, Dr. Thomas Lumpkin, Emeritus Director General CIMMYT, Mexico, and Chairman the Borlaug Training Foundation, USA, for presenting the keynote lecture, The Nexus Between Climate Change and Biodiversity, a review of where we are. An overview on climate change was thought-provoking. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Patricia Paiva, for the presentation on ISHS and its activities. We are thankful to ISHS for giving us opportunity to organize the ISHS conference in New Delhi. I would like to acknowledge ISHS Secretariat for their support throughout. Thank you, Dr. Arun K. Joshi, CIMMYT Asia Regional Representative, and MD Visa for encouraging words and accepting our request for introducing the keynote speaker. I thank Dr. J.C. Rana for continuous support and advice from time to time. Heartfelt thanks are due to Dr. G.P. Singh, Director ICAR-NBPGR, for unconditional support and encouragement, without which organizing this conference wouldn't have been possible. I extend my gratitude to all the delegates present here from around the world, from 9 countries: Brazil, Canada, Germany, Italy, Russia, Senegal, Thailand, United Kingdom, and USA. I hope and wish that your stay in Delhi is comfortable and memorable. I profusely thank Dr. S.K. Malik, co-convener of this conference, and my colleague for shouldering the responsibilities of organizing this conference with me. Many thanks to members of organizing committee, the staff of ICAR-NBPGR, and NAS staff for contributing towards the organizing of this conference. At the end, I thank one and all and hoping that fruitful deliberations will be made during the conference and will lead to positive changes for the preservation of biodiversity. Thank you very much.